you probably would have got it. Shake, shake, shake it off. There you go. It's recorded now. I'll just cut that out. Anyway, welcome everybody to Mounds State Park. This is episode 7 in our Let's Go Outdoors series. Interesting thing about this park is we thought the last one we went to was small. This one's even smaller. This is only 290 acres. This is a little fella. But there's a lot of really cool things chocked up in this little place. Now this place was founded in 1936. And the family that makes this possible, and if it wasn't for them, this place wouldn't exist. It was Frederick Brandenburg and his family who moved here in the 1800s. From Germany, believe it or not, and they left Germany. Mother told them to leave Germany to escape the draft. And I thought the draft was a problem we had here, but I guess they had it there too. At any rate, there's a lot of stories that have to do with what happened. One story is that they had an ox and wagon cart, and it broke down in this area, so they didn't want to move any further. Another story that they think is more unlikely is the wife. I'll go into more details about her later. They had a daughter, Brandenburg, and she either died or she was sick. It's not really clear on that. So, you know, it's either one or the other, but that's how they say they ended up here. So then they settled in here and made this their home. And they stayed here for like 20, 30 years, I believe. Yeah, it's been quite a while they were here. And they guarded this place jealously. And there was a lot of good reasons too, because first of all, this is one of the few spots that has the Adena Hopewell Mounds, which are prevalent in Ohio. And there's the Angel Mounds that's not far from here. David's going to talk a whole lot about that a lot later in a different section. I'm going to talk about the Brandenburg family also in a later section. But right now I just want to give you guys a heads up on things. We're going to get our camp finished, get ourselves together, and we're going to see what we're going to do for you guys on this lovely trip that we're doing. We'll see you guys in a little while. Take care now.
Hi everyone, we're at the Mounds, and right behind me and to the right, this is the Great Mound. We're going to talk a lot more about this later on, but this was one of my ones I really wanted to see because of the sacredness of it. These mounds were used by the Adena and Hopewell people back between 200 BC and 200 AD. There's so much history here that we're going to try and cover. It's going to be really hard to do, but just thinking about this here was an astronomical tool that they used to measure the stars. And before the European settlers and everyone came back in here to actually reforest this, all of these trees were gone. And so the Adena, what they would do, the Adena Hopewell, they removed all of the trees so there would be no blockage in front of the mound, so they can use it to look at the seasons and use them to figure out what the summer solstice, the winter solstice, and even help them to find stars in an evening sky. There's a whole lot of history and a whole lot of mystery about the Adena, which is believed to be the very first Indian culture that existed. This is just a little snippet of what we're going to be talking about, but I really hope you're going to enjoy this. This reminds me a lot about Prophetstown because there's a lot of sacredness here. So we will talk to you guys tomorrow when there's more daylight and we get to see more time, spend more time with these mounds and delve deep into their history. And I really think you will enjoy this episode if you stick with us. See you guys in a little bit.
Welcome back, everyone. We cannot talk about the Mounds State Park without talking about the family that made it possible. Frederick Bonenberg Sr. arrived in the United States from Germany around 1800. In his travels, he met a woman who would soon be his wife. Her name was Barbara Easter, who he met in Pennsylvania. Now, the two of them traveled around until they came to what would become Madison County, Indiana. This was around 1820 when they purchased the acres of what is now Mounds State Park. They settled just west of the Mounds in a log cabin. Frederick and Barbara had 12 children. 9 of them survived and prospered. Around 1850, they built the 2-story brick Bonenberg house. The third child, Frederick Jr., who also lived in the house, raised an additional 6 children in the house. This house is in the National Index of Historic Sites, which I have talked about before in a previous episode. Now, Frederick Jr. died in 1901, and he left the land to his son Ransom. And in 1905, Ransom leased 40 acres of land to the Indiana Union Traction Company for 5 years with an option to buy. This company built an amusement park on the acres called Mounds Park. This park ran successfully until 1929, when it closed because of the Great Depression. Even with these changes, the Bonenbergs protected the uniqueness of the mounds from looters and from equipment that would damage it. This is the reason the mounds survive to this day. Now, the Traction Company, honoring this legacy, sold the land to the Madison County Historical Society, who promptly donated this land to the Department of Conservation. Mounds State Park was established in October 17, 1930, and was dedicated in 1936. If it were not for the Bonenberg family and the Traction Company, we would not have the Mounds State Park as it is today. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next section. Bye-bye.
So it's another rainy, crummy day. It seems like me and Mike are good at getting the days when it's raining. But what I want to do is I want to show you some of the mounds that I can show you all before the weather gets worse. And right in front of us right now, this is what they call the Fiddleback Mound. The shape of the Fiddleback Mound, it's very unique. In its outline, the mound is shaped like a figure 8 or the back of a fiddle. Of the several earthworks in Indiana and Ohio, only 5 are known to have this shape. So that's one of those rare things, guys, that we only see here at the Mounds. And this is the last version of the Fiddleback or the figure 8 type mound that is left intact from the Adina Hopewell era in Indian history. I wanted to show you the Great Mound, and this is one of the most exciting ones here. This earthwork was actually built over 2,000 years ago and was used by the Adina Hopewell people for over 300 years. It's one of the best preserved in the Ohio Valley, and it has revealed much about the construction organization and the purposes of the Adina Hopewell people. This mound they started building this mound back in 250 BC when they started working on the center. Over time, they added more and more features like the post so they could use the alignments of the rising stars and the seasons. They may have also been used to help place other enclosures, because back in 1968 through 69, at the beginning of the mound, there was an excavation of a tomb that was made out of timber. One thing about these mounds, in particular the Great Mound, was believed to be used for ceremonies, celebrations, life, and death. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed the little pan that we showed you of the mounds. We're doing our best with the rain and the crummy weather, but I do want to let you know. The interesting about the Adena people also was that it seems like they were only around from 200 BC to 200 AD. Then by 500 BC, 500 AD, the Hopewell took over the traditions of the Adena. And what they started doing, they didn't build the mounds. The Hopewell did, the Adena did. And when the Adena disappeared, everything pretty much disappeared with them except for what the Hopewell brought forward. The Adena and the Hopewell had one of the largest ancient Indian trade routes in the colonies or of the day. They actually traded anywhere from Florida all the way up to Maine. They traded in mica and copper, and when the Ball State University had excavated this site back in the 60s, they found all kinds of material that is not common to Indiana, that showed proof that this ancient Indian group of people, which is still really very little known about them, it's just hard to put into words what happened here and what they accomplished. You know, like I said, when they did that excavation, they found copper, mica, seashells. They found all kinds of stuff that just was not common to this area, which led the researchers to believe about their trade route. Because as they went through and found other sites that were similar to this, which now instead of called the Adena or the Hope, are called the Mound Builders. As they go throughout the United States, and they find these things, they find all these things that are native to those areas that somehow got from there, like say Maine or Florida, to here, central Indiana. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope that it makes you want to come here and really experience this. A couple more things really to take note. Before this park once actually had 10 actual mounds. Of the 10, only 5 actually remained, because over time, due to erosion and human usage and foot traffic throughout the mounds, most of it was destroyed or washed away over time. Another thing is this whole area was treeless at the time, because they also used the Great Mounds for astronomical devices, and they used large tree trunks that they would use to get their bearings and stuff. Unfortunately, when the European settlers came and they started reforesting the area, a lot of stuff changed. I'll also be talking about the White River in a little while, and I'll be talking about a couple of the extinct species that are here. But definitely, it's definitely worth some research to find out more about the Adena and the Hopewell. And there is one final thing. There is rumor that the Miami tribes and the Shawnee tribes might have been descendants from the Hopewell and the Adena, but no one knows for sure. Hope you enjoyed this segment. We'll see you in the next one. Hello again, friends. So I wanted to show you I'm going to try and show you a couple more of the mounds, and right in front of us is Earthwork Habib. This is actually the smallest enclosure at the Mound State Park. It's only 85 feet across. It's unique because it has 2 gateways. The gateway on the east side was added sometime after the enclosure was completed. Then, the original depth of the ditch was slightly over 4 feet. The depression in the center is probably the result of a tree falling over a long period of time ago. From the center of the Great Mound, this enclosure aligns to the rising star Fomalhaut.
Unfortunately, there's not much really to see of it. There's not much. There's nothing. It's not really here anymore.
Yeah, there's not much left of it, guys.
But this is where it was located, right in this little tree stand area, right up in here. Mostly erosion and foot traffic. Just a little fact to note to tie in with what David was saying. It took a while for them to preserve this area, because what they used to do way back in the day is they used to race Model Ts through here. They drag race them through these mounds. They didn't even realize what they were trotting on. There you go, folks.
Hey everyone. So I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the mounds that I was going to talk about the White River a little bit. And the reason why I want to talk about this White River, this is actually one of the reasons why the Adena and the Hopewell settled here so long ago. This river is actually an ancient river. It's actually from the Tipton iceberg ice melt that actually created the rivers and the lakes that make up most of central Indiana. They moved here because they found that the water was very clear. It's very fishable. You know, you can get mussels, you can get catfish, you can get bass, bluegill, all the fishes that they needed to survive on. And so they also based their trade out of here as well. Like I mentioned earlier as well, part of their thing was the trade. And the river was one of the things that helped them to get their Adena, Hopewell trade network out there. But what happened, unfortunately, you know, the Indians were minding their own business, and what happened is European settlers came in, and they wanted to farm the land, because of course they had to feed their families. They had to find a way to make money, and you're going to do that by farming. Unfortunately, what happened is when they started actually farming cattle, you know, cows and stuff like that, and like the kill from when they would butcher the animals, all that waste ended up going into the White River. So what happened is, over time, the river got to the point where it got so polluted that even to today, you got PVCs and mercury in the water. And they actually recommend, yes, if you're going to fish here, consume only one meal of fish a month out of here. Otherwise, you might get cancer or something else, because that's how bad it is. In the 60s, concerned citizens in the area decided that what they wanted to do is they wanted to get a wastewater treatment plant downstream so they could try and start taking care of the water. And today, the river is better, but it still struggles to recover. There is still non-point pollution that still gets into the water. And so still the advisory for limiting your amount of fish that you eat here is still good it's still going to this day. So remember, guys, when we move into a new area, it's our duty as a human being to take care of the land that we're in, like the Indians did when they were here. We have to live here, and we have to make sure that the world is here for future generations. So before you go and make any major decisions that could harm the environment that you're in, whether it is polluting water, polluting with non-biodegradable stuff in the woods, or whatever that you may do, keep in mind that we all have to share this. And, you know, we all got to live, and we all got to have sustenance. So just think about that. And I'll talk to you guys a little bit later. Did you know that there's some species that fly around that are 200 million years old? Yeah, that's right. It's at 200 million years old. We all see the dragonflies flying around, right? Well, guess what is really rare and really hard to find outside of Indiana? It is a dragonfly that is called the petal-tailed dragonfly. It's a black and gray dragonfly. You hardly see any of those around, and that little creature has been around for 200 million years. Think about that. I wonder what he's eating. Okay, and then there's another weird creature called a snar. I laugh, guys. It's just a weird name. They have another rare creature out there called the star-nosed mole. Yeah, and it's a predator. That's what it is. And it's found in the wetlands. Because right behind us, the stairs that you saw us coming, we just went through an Indiana fen, which is one of the very rare wetlands that you find in Indiana. And there's also something called a skunk cabbage. Think about that. Skunk and cabbage? I don't like cabbage to begin with, but I had a skunk. Ugh. But it's high in calcium. And it's a species, plant, that's been able to adapt in the soil, where it's soil content that's here in Indiana, and it's high in calcium, believe it or not. Can you believe that? Yeah. Interesting stuff. In Indiana. So guys, we were able to find a fourth mound out of the 5 that are existing. This is the circle mound, guys, and it's actually not circular, but they call it circular for whatever reason. This is actually a rectangular one. This one was actually completed either about AD 1 or 250 years after the Great Mound was started. The gateway of the circle mound opened to the east, and the sun rose directly in line with the gateway during the spring and fall equinox. March 21st and September 21st on our calendar. And 2 other rectangular enclosures are found on the north end of the park, which we haven't found yet, but this is 4 of the 5, guys. And again, the Adina and the Hopewell were very intelligent, using these to guide them through the seasons and to find stars up in the sky. Incredible. Back, everyone. You know what time it is. It is time for the final wood. Ta-da! So this one was definitely unique in the parks that we visited, just like Turkey Run was. This park was only 290 acres. Like, guys, that's 290 acres. That is the smallest we've been to yet. But one thing that made this park so very special is the mountains. The great mounds that the Adina and the Hopewell people left behind, and it gave us a picture into their history. We learned so much about these people, what we could learn. The problem with the Adina and even the Hopewell, it's not very much known. Like I said in the intro earlier, it's a history, but it's also mystery. There's still not a lot. And a lot of people believe that the Adina and the Hopewell weren't actually a tribe. It was just a way of living. So maybe that's going to be another one of those great mysteries that we may never solve, unless there's some Adina descendants or Hopewell descendants left. Who knows? But we may never know. We learned about the Brandenburgs, who actually came from Germany, and the reason this park is here is because they decided they loved the park, and they were able to keep it here for us today to look at. I also talked a little bit about something I like talking about a lot, which is conservation. And I'm going to, if you guys watch any of these shows, you know if I have a conservation issue, I'm going to talk about it. The White River, which is left over from the Tipton ancient glacier that melted, which actually created all the rivers and lakes pretty much out in central Indiana. That was once one of the cleanest, smoothest flowing rivers around when the Adina and the Hopewell lived here, and that's why they settled here. It also gave them access to their trade route. The Adina trade routes and the Hopewell trade routes were the largest of the day. they actually traded anywhere from Maine to Florida. And part of their transportation, guess what, was the White River. The White River still flows today, and it's cleaner than when it was. But what happened is, shortly after the Adena left the area and European settlers came in, they decided they were going to start doing industry here and doing farming. And if you guys are familiar with farming, things like cow waste and horse waste and just like, you know, butchered stuff, that gets all thrown away. And what happened is we found out that for a while there, the White River was undrinkable. It was you couldn't even bear to be there because it was used as an open sewer. We also found out that in the 60s, some very concerned citizens got the state of Indiana to get some downstream water treatment plants out there to try and stem the virus and all the bad stuff like the PCBs and, you know, the mercury. And they said there was cholera. What do you say that, Mike? Is it cholera? Cholera, which was because of the polluted water. And so, you know, the White River, we found out, is recovering now. And we did take some pictures for you guys where you can see it runs pretty clean right now, but you still are limited to the amount of fish that they want you to eat out of there because it's still the PCBs and the mercury. So, like I said, if you didn't catch that part of the video, limit yourself to one meal out of that river a month so you don't give yourself some kind of cancer. You know, we also learned that there was an amusement park here, and because of the amusement park here, that kind of helped preserve the property. Because after sorry guys, it's been a long day.
Adena Hopewell.
Yeah, the Adena Hopewell. Not the Adena Hopewell. I was talking about. I was going to talk about the amusement park.
Oh, yes.
You know, the amusement park really. When the Great Depression came, it was bad for the amusement park, but it was good for the people because the traction company, the Union Traction Company that ran it, is that correct, Mike? Union Traction? So the Union Traction Company who ran the amusement park, they gave that land back to the state of Indiana. And so Indiana decided they were going to preserve it for posterity. So guys, this was a little bit different. It was a little bit more complicated. This was our first one back from our little week off, and I'll tell you, it felt like it was longer than that. Sorry guys, but we needed to take a break. And hopefully you're going to get a chance to check out our mid-season highlight reel that we're uploading. That's going to be uploaded a little late though because we did have some problems with our internet, but we're going to hopefully have that taken care of in the next couple of days. So guys, like I always say, if you enjoy what we do, please share our content, make a comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate that, and I would love to have all you folks out there with my journeys, with my adventures, and having you experience them as we are. But until then, I will see you in the next campground of America.